Two guys not related, yet somehow are given the same name. It's time for the Two Daves podcast, where we'll answer the age-old question, are two Daves better than one? And now, here's Dave and Dave.
Not only have we been given the same name, but I think we've been given the same glasses. Hey, that's right. You've entered the family-friendly safe zone. Welcome to another Two Daves podcast, where we discover meatloaf and meatballs are 99% the same recipe. Hey, I'm Dave.
And I'm the other Dave, and I love meatloaf.
I've lost them already, people.
Oh, I'm getting hungry, man.
Maybe, Dave, we shouldn't be saying this ain't tacos. We should be saying this ain't meatballs.
Yeah.
Well, that's another discussion for another episode.
Okay, once again, I'm the other Dave, and this ain't tacos. It's a podcast that 9 out of 10 doctors recommend you have a cognitive test after listening to. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe. By the way, it does not cost to subscribe. And when you do that, go ahead and click on that bell icon next to it. And that's going to inform you of our next episode. And also, we'd like for you to share this podcast with your friends. Would you help us spread the word to those who have not yet heard about the Two Daves Podcast Nation? Oh, and one more thing. Would you comment on what you liked in this podcast and what you'd like to see us possibly do in the future? We'd love to hear from you.
Dave, I got a comment from somebody on our last podcast.
Did you?
Yes. They stated what we would like is to not hear you again, but I deleted it before,
Yes. Well, I'm glad you did that. It was actually my wife that made that comment.
Oh, wow. Did you have any comments that you had to delete this week?
I just didn't check this week because I got tired of looking at all the bad comments about you. So I just didn't even check.
Well,
were there any this week about you?
None.
Wow.
All about you.
Charlotte's computer must have broken.
I locked it up and she couldn't get on it. So
that's why.
Okay. Yeah, that's why what?
That's why you didn't have any bad comments because your
That's
wife.
Correct. That's correct. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Wait a minute. What are we talking about?
I don't know. Okay. Hey, it's time for the Two Daves fact of the day.
Oh, yes.
Yes. It's sponsored by Scope's newest mouthwash flavor, bacon, for breath that sizzles. That's right. For breath that sizzles. Try bacon flavored Scope. And while you're at it, buy Pepsodent egg white toothpaste. It'll be breakfast in your mouth.
All right. There's something about that just sounds so good.
Yes.
And there's something about it that sounds so wrong.
Oh, man.
But
I would
anyway,
get sued by Scope.
What?
You might get sued by Scope, but I doubt it.
Here is the Two Daves fact of the day to make your life a little better. The cigarette lighter was invented before the match.
Dave, that's not true.
I don't think it is either.
No, it is.
No, it absolutely is
It
true.
is.
Yes.
That's right. Well, hey, welcome back again. We always like to do some fun things at the beginning.
Oh, really?
Well, we think they're fun.
Okay.
The Two Daves are going to be giving a strange Guinness Book of World Record to each other, and the other one's going to try to guess if it's true, and if it was, how did they break the record? Okay. So one, was it true? Okay. And secondly, how did they break the record? Okay. So I think I'm doing the first one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. There is a Guinness Book of World Records for the most Big Macs consumed in a lifetime. That's right. U.S. resident Donald A. Gorski consumed his 26,000th McDonald's Big Mac on October 11, 2012, after 40 years of eating Big Macs on a daily basis.
Well, Dave, I'm going to say that that's probably not true. And my reasoning is, in order to be able to make the Guinness records, it has to be verified. And I don't think there's any way that anybody could, walk alongside a person for 40 years to verify how many Big Macs they've eaten. So I'm going to say that's not true.
It's true.
Is it really?
Yes. Yes. I don't know how, but it is true.
Okay.
And by the way, Donald was constipated for 40 years as well.
You're probably right.
That's right. That's right. What do you have?
Well, here's one. The longest kiss ever. The longest kiss ever. You thought it was on The Bachelor. Now, I'm not going to try and pronounce this couple's names because they're not from America. They're Oriental. But their love has gone the distance, clocking a kiss at, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
58 hours, 35 minutes, and 58 seconds. The couple, they're from Thailand. They actually won a Ripley's Believe It or Not event on February 12 through 14 of 2013. They brought home a cash prize and 2 diamond rings for winning. So it's the longest kiss, 58 hours, 35 minutes, and 58 seconds.
Man, is this sponsored by Chapstick or what? I'm going to say it's true only because they clocked a time. Somebody could have been there.
Yeah. Yes, you are absolutely right. It is true. That absolutely happened.
Very good. Hey, I'm up by 1.
Okay, yeah, you are.
Let me ask you, Dave, how long did you kiss your wife at your wedding?
I didn't. Do you know the story? Or are you just teasing with me?
No, tell me the story. I know the story.
When the minister said, "You may kiss the bride," I reached into my pocket and pulled out a banaka and I sprayed my mouth, and she was not expecting that. And it took her so by surprise that she wouldn't kiss me. So I don't think we're legally married. I think we're living in sin because she didn't kiss me at the wedding.
You know what? You guys could have the longest time without a kiss.
Without a kiss. I do want to tell you this. This last August was our 30th anniversary.
Yes.
We renewed our vows. And when it was time for the pastor to say, kiss your wife, I did the same thing. Didn't tell her I was going to do it. Pulled out a banaka, and she this time kissed me vigorously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Vigorously even.
Vigorously. Yeah.
Wow.
She wasn't going to let that moment pass by again because I haven't let her forget it for 30 years.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's great.
I thought you knew it. That's why I thought you were just toying with me. But yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to say that's true. Right?
Yeah, we already voted. I mean, I already told you it was true. Remember?
That's right. It is true. No, I'm talking about your story.
Yes, it's true. I thought maybe you were going to have to take that cognitive test.
Okay, here's the next one.
Okay, Joe.
Excuse me. Most canned drinks open by a parrot in 1 minute.
Say that again.
Most canned drinks open by a parrot in 1 minute. Ever wonder how many
a parrot could open a canned drink?
Yeah, well, ever wonder how many a bird could open? How many cans they could open? Zach the macaw unopened 35 cans in 1 minute in San Jose, California on January 12th. Are you okay over there?
I'm okay.
On January 12th, 2012.
He opened up. Now, I'm sorry, I had an accident over here. Can you tell me how many cans again that he opened?
35 cans.
35 cans.
In 1 minute.
35 cans in a minute. Did he do it? 35 cans in a minute. I'm going to say no. That's not possible.
You are terrible at this game. It's true.
Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Man.
Now
I am terrible at this game.
he didn't use the tab opener. He just used his beak to go into the can.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
what he did. Yep.
Well, I've got one for you. It's the longest tongue. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the picture. The longest tongue on a dog. And now Dave is doing this. The longest tongue on a dog. Puggy, he's a Pekingese, possesses the longest licker on record at 4.5 inches. All right. The measurement was taken at Avondale Hazlitt Animal Clinic in Texas in May 2009 when he was 9 years old.
Man, they've been pulling that tongue out of that dog for a long time. This picture is incredible, people. You should see this.
I really wish you could instead see Dave holding out his tongue while I was reading that.
Oh, man. This is sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's true.
Well, you are right. It is absolutely true. The longest tongue on a dog, 4.5 inches. Thank you very much, Puggy.
Puggy. Okay. Well, I think finally would be the longest fingernails ever on a woman.
Oh, that would be my wife.
Now, it took American Lee Redmond. It only comes from America.
Oh, yeah.
Nearly 30 years to grow her nails out to the record of holding 28 feet, 4.5 inches, which was measured on February 2008.
Okay.
The longest single nail was her right thumb, which reached to 2 feet, 11 inches. She said, I started to grow my nails in 1979. It was kind of a challenge to myself to see how far they would go before they started twisting out of shape. Plus, I ran out of medication for my mind, so I thought I might as well start doing this. Unfortunately, her nails snapped off in a 2009 car accident.
Oh, wow. You know what? I believe that's true.
That's correct. It's true.
I made it.
You know, look at that. When did she start? She did 30 years. What do you do in your life? You waste your life because there's nothing you could do.
You can't do anything. You can't play cards.
You can't pick your nose.
No, you can't. You have to have somebody feed you.
Going to the bathroom has to be a challenge.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you'd have to have help.
Holding an ice cream cone is not good.
I wouldn't want that kind of help either.
Scratching your husband's back might be fun, but it could be dangerous as well.
Could be. Can you imagine the looks that she got when she was out of the house?
Man, can you imagine if she snapped her finger, how many fingernails would go off at that same time?
Do you know that probably people said, hey, I loved you in Edward Scissorhands?
Maybe she was a hairstylist.
Could be.
Maybe she worked for the blood company and she took blood.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there are a lot of different categories for the Guinness World Records, but Dave and I have come up with some rejected categories, some Guinness World Record rejected categories. Why don't you go first, Dave?
Well, and I just want to let our audience know that you have tried every one of these and were rejected every time.
Yeah.
The first one was the longest time spent trying to not think about penguins.
Yeah, I didn't get very far.
You didn't?
I didn't. Because as soon as I told myself not to think about penguins, I lost.
That's true.
Here's the second one. Making the loudest silence.
I'm surprised you didn't win because in your brain, I would think that would be the longest,
but that
loudest
doesn't count.
silence.
They can't measure that. So that doesn't count.
Okay. Here's a good one. Days to pretend you're a robot.
Yeah, I tried that one, but I think there were a few others that got in ahead of me.
Like who?
The person who played C-3PO in Star Wars.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Here's
And
the
Barney.
number of time. What? What?
Barney the robot dinosaur. Don't you
Barney,
remember that?
Barney the robot dinosaur?
Yeah.
I don't think he was a robot, was he?
Wasn't he?
No, he wasn't a robot.
Well, he was at Chuck E. Cheese all the time. I thought that.
Barney was not at Chuck E. Cheese. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. I guess you're always right.
You have to take the
I'm always
cognitive
wrong.
test, Dave. You have to do that. All right. Here's the number 4 rejected category. Number of times to repeat the same word over and over again.
I could win that.
You could win that?
I could win that.
You should go for it.
I say the same word time and time again on this podcast.
What word?
Oh, I say all kinds of that's funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of words. A lot of words.
I know.
All right.
Here's what, number 5. Longest time making Star Trek noises. What are Star Trek noises?
Or how about this? The number of times you can listen to the 2 Daves podcast without getting nauseated.
Oh, man. Well, your mom made it one podcast, I know.
I don't think so. I think she got nauseated the first time around.
My wife heard the intro and lost it there. Oh, boy. Well, tonight we are going to continue with our discussion with Andy Parks. And Andy was just so beneficial in this conversation. I really appreciate him. So I hope you enjoy part 2 of our discussion on hatred. Well, again, we're emotional creatures. We love or hate. We feel happy or sad. We're angry and joyful. And yet Christians sometimes, not sometimes, but they do struggle with integrating emotion into their spiritual lives and can end up falling victim to dangerous tendencies when it comes to their emotions. I've been there, done that.
Sure, we all have.
It's there. We're all guilty of this. And if we don't watch it, we allow the media, social media, and politics to fuel all this fire inside of us. Would you agree or not?
I would. I believe that, as I said earlier, that the media has stirred so many things up and keeps it stirred up. So there's constant conflict and division and separation. But you know what? Social media is no better.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I am amazed at some of the things I have read from Christians, from pastors, and from religious leaders this past year and a half. I'm amazed by the ignorance. I'm amazed by the statements that would be racial, but maybe they didn't realize they were.
Yeah.
I read a statement after the George Floyd thing, and one of our AG colleges didn't offer, but was asked if the funeral could be hosted there. And the president said, sure, you can have it here. He didn't endorse anybody that spoke. He said, man, we'll do this for our community. I think it was great that he did it. He got hammered on social media for doing it.
Really?
And somebody made this comment. The Black community is the most unchurched community of all society. And I sometimes don't have the sense to not say something.
Yeah.
And I said, that is the most ignorant racial statement I have read on this page. And of course, I got hammered for it.
I'm sure you did.
But it just keeps coming. And it's coming from people that have never walked a day in somebody's shoes that's different than them.
Uh-huh.
I've walked beside people, but I've never walked in them. I mean, I'm white. I have blue eyes. I used to have hair. Now I have white, gray hair. But, Dave, we have sons about the same age. Have you ever had to have I've watched my African American father-in-law have a conversation with my son about what to do when you get pulled over, because it's different from him than it is for somebody else.
Yeah, I don't have that conversation. I talk to him about how to deal with it, but not from a black person's point of view at all.
And part of it is common sense. Be polite. Yes, sir. No. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Do what you're told. But then that's another thing. How many times have we read when an African American person has been shot or attacked, maybe by the police, and how many people respond, well, just do what you're told.
Yeah.
You're saying that to a people group that were told to do what they were told for 400 years in slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You think that doesn't carry over from generation to generation?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're talking about social media here. In the news, I hate every time I see a shooting and it be of a black person or a person of color. What they would have just done what they were told. Really? That's your justification of it? Do what you're told?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't get it sometimes. But I think media, what you said, social media is fueling the fire. I agree with that 100%. Politics as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can get on the soapbox.
No, it's the truth. And I think, there are times when you have to just pull away from social media, because especially during really volatile times, like, for example, during any election season, I think it's difficult for a Christian, for a believer, to immerse themselves in social media, because there's so much negativity, so much stirring up of trouble, trying to get people at each other's throat, and it totally goes against the whole idea of loving one another. And yeah, it's a bad situation right now.
Yeah, and you're I think you said something, and I think and again, this is a hot button for me, and I don't get to talk about it a lot. And here's another thing: I don't get to have this conversation with a lot of my white friends, even though I'm white.
We're as white. Well, I'm as orange as I can get. So
you are, yeah. But here's the thing, Dave P. What if we truly loved one another as we loved ourselves?
Uh-huh.
Could it be that simple? There's a verse that changed my life is Psalms 142, verse 7. David's hiding in a cave. He had already been anointed king. He saw his father-in-law, who is a king, is trying to kill him. And David says this. He said, look to my right, refuge has failed me. No one acknowledges me. No man cares for my soul. This is the anointed one of God making that statement.
Yeah.
What if we just lived our lives caring for people's soul?
Yeah.
Red, yellow, black, white. Here's the thing.
Gay.
Thank you. Gay, drunk, drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
Until we get to the place that we can truly love everyone, we're missing a big part of what it means to be a believer.
Yeah.
And I know people, here's what Michelle and I say. We're conservative with our morals and values, but we're liberal with our love.
Yeah.
I'm going to love you when I meet you.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I'm going to love everything in your life. You're probably not going to love everything in my life.
Yeah.
I can, but I don't want someone to hate me before I ever have a conversation with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're exactly right, Dave. That's what it comes down to.
First chapter of Romans, I think, talks about in the last days that people will invent ways of doing evil. And sometimes we as Christians talk about that in a very disgusted manner. And, obviously evil should disgust us. But we talk about it in such a way that it's not the evil that disgusts us, it's the people that disgust us. And that's certainly a wrong perspective. That's not loving them as we love ourselves.
Yeah, maybe that goes back. That's a great statement, a great thought. Maybe that goes back to what we talked about earlier. And why do we choose to pull out sins, to hate different groups and things like that? Is it because it disgusts us?
I think so. In some cases, it is. It's different to us, and therefore it is disgusting to us. Yeah.
I'm a believer. I'm a heterosexual believer in Christ Jesus. I believe what the Bible says about homosexuality, and I believe what the Bible says about marriage and man and woman. I get all that. I believe that. I teach that. But that doesn't mean that I don't love a gay person.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I wouldn't welcome them into my home. It doesn't mean I wouldn't have a meal with them. It doesn't mean in no way that I wouldn't love them.
Yeah, good
as
for
long
you.
as I loved anybody. And I don't think that's the message the church has sent. I think, unfortunately, the message that people that believe different than us, right or wrong, they've heard the message of hate, not the message of love. Here's the thing: love wins. Love wins
every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, of course, one of the dangers that we face in the culture in which we live is the way that we interact with those people who don't think like us, who don't act like us, they don't speak like us. And this isn't a Bible study here on this podcast, but we also don't shy away from God's word because we believe that it is our standard for living. Luke chapter 6, verses 32 through 36. Are you really showing true love by loving only those who love you? Even those who don't know God will do that. Are you really showing compassion when you do good deeds only to those who do good deeds to you? Even those who don't know God will do that. Verse 34, but if you lend money only to those you know will repay you, what credit is that to your character? Even those who don't know God do that. Rather, love your enemies and continue to treat them well. And when you lend money, don't despair if you're never paid back, for it's not lost. You'll receive a rich reward, and you'll be known as true children of the Most High God, having his same nature. Be like your Father, who is famous for his kindness. I love this translation. Be like your Father, who is famous for his kindness to heal even the thankless and cruel. Overflow with mercy and compassion for others, just as your heavenly Father overflows with mercy and compassion for all.
Oh, man, how good is that?
Isn't that good?
Does that not just sum up everything we've talked about?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good, Dave.
I got to say something here because, okay, I'm the loudmouth here, but
you know what, Dave?
I have
love you anyway.
Yeah. I have to ignore a lot of the stuff that people are saying in our culture today about because I'm white, I must be racist, or I don't think about that. I just love on people as I see them this morning. And I shouldn't have to say, hey, this white meant me. I talked to a black man today who I've known for many years, and I treat him just like I would treat a white friend of mine. I don't say that kind of stuff.
Right.
There's a girl from India that I talk with, and I should not have to say I have so many black friends. I have so many Hispanic friends. I have so many people from India and all this kind of stuff. I just love on the people that I have. I have gay friends. I have transgender friends. I just don't, I can't worry about some of that stuff, what people want to stereotype a white man with. And it's true. I'm never going to understand. I might have 100 million talks with black people on what they went through. I still will not understand completely what that race went through. I won't. But that doesn't mean I can't love on people for just the sake of loving them and be kind and talk with them and develop relationships.
I think that's the big thing. You're willing to have the conversation. There's a lot of people not willing to have the conversation, and we don't have to preface it. Sometimes I feel like And I've experienced this. I've sat down at a table with, be honest, I've sat at a table or had tried to have conversations with, black guys, black ministers, really. And, I'm kind of on the outside, they're having their conversation. But as soon as I bring up that my father-in-law was a Kojic minister, and they know Kojic is Church of God in Christ, and that's a black fellowship, all of a sudden I can be part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I get some street cred. Here's the thing. I shouldn't have to preface it with my family's ethnicity. I shouldn't have to preface it by, I grew up in a home with a black stepfather. Like you said, I don't have to say, I talked to a black person today. I talked to a Latino person today. Hey, man, I just talked to people that Jesus loved, and I did my best to love them like he did.
Yeah.
And I think for us, that is the norm. What we're doing is we're picking out, unfortunately, some poor examples of loudmouths that the media likes to keep parading around.
Yeah.
I agree. I have to remind myself, Andy, that I'm not responsible for the way our culture does its stuff, but I am, how it promotes itself. A culture is a culture, but I am responsible how I respond in the culture. And, I can make a difference in a culture that is godless, because Jesus made a difference in me when I was godless.
Yeah. Amen.
And,
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Again, so my sin that I've been forgiven of is no different than anybody else's sin.
Right.
I was lost.
Yep.
Now I'm found.
Yep.
I was in need of a savior.
Yep.
That's what it comes down to.
Yep. Your sin nailed Jesus to the cross just as mine did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the problems we're talking about, having a conversation, that we need the conversation. Well, I think one of the reasons why conversation is stilted is because we don't know how to listen. We know how to talk, but we don't know how to listen. And it's very important that we listen to what other people are saying, even when maybe their viewpoint might be different than ours. Instead, what we end up doing so many times is we overtalk the other person. We just never listen to it. It's just two people shouting over each other, or on social media, typing in all caps. Not a great characteristic of a follower of Christ, though, is it?
Yeah. And as a follower of Christ, you can't say whatever you want on social media and follow it up with LOL and it be okay.
It says that in the Bible somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah.
LOL.
Thou shalt not LOL thy brother.
But, James said in chapter 1, verse 19, he says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry.
Oh, so good. Isn't it amazing how applicable the Bible is for today's situations?
It's today.
It's so good.
It's so relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not relevant for when we're driving, right?
Whoa, yeah. Road rage?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, they didn't have cars back in those days. So
yeah, that's right.
Stop
But
judging me, David.
What's that, Andy?
Stop judging me.
Yeah, stop judging me. Yeah. But I think that's an important question we've got to ask. If listening is the key, is the church listening? Are we listening? Are we at least giving respect to the other person who's speaking? Even if we totally disagree with them, can we at least respect what they're saying and listen to them?
I think the church has to be willing to have the conversation first. I think a lot of times the church, Christians, believers are making statements regarding things that they have not had a conversation about in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that on ministers' pages, especially some of the more conservative ones. I am amazed at how dismissive, how critical, and two, how quick to justify their actions. So critical of others, but quick to justify theirs. But I love that. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. I don't think the church has been good listeners in the history of the church, especially probably the last 40 or 50 years, maybe longer.
Sure. Yep, that's right.
Well, Andy, you and I both know this. Even within denominations, there's a disconnect between one another. Why would we think there wouldn't be a disconnect with our culture and people? I don't think that's a denominational thing. That's just that's a humanity thing. I think we struggle with that.
Yeah. Until people, believers or non-believers, until we can get our own mess straightened out, we should probably leave other people's mess alone.
Yeah.
We're probably going to split this up into two things. So let's just finish this up in 2 episodes. But the last thing I want to do is approve of the culture's agenda. But I do want to acknowledge and accept people in spite of their lifestyle. That's what Jesus did. I mean, we can't afford to be judging everybody and doing all that stuff. I mean, we got to be Christ with his hands and his feet. We can't afford to do all this stuff.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it hard to dismiss culture that we live in?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Andy, can you say that again?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to dismiss culture when we live in the culture.
That's right.
Now, I think the church should be influencing the culture, and too oftentimes the culture is influencing the church. But, you said I approve of the culture's agenda, but I do want to acknowledge and accept people in spite of their lifestyle. We have people that attend our church that have lifestyles different than mine.
That's right.
I'm glad they're there.
Yeah, I know.
I'm glad they feel comfortable enough to be there and be loved by our church family and hear the same message of freedom that I heard when I was lost in sin. Now, maybe they don't feel like they're lost in sin. Maybe they don't feel like they're doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
There were a lot of times in my life that I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But I was.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. I'm not going to acknowledge culture. Culture is destroying our generation, today's generation. They're making everything so easily acceptable that there's no parameters. It's a free for all.
Yeah.
And we think the free love of the 70s was something, and nothing compared to what's going on today.
Yeah.
Well, they suppress the truth and they exchange the truth of God in for a lie. It's what was right is now wrong. What was wrong is now right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's no doubt that we disagree on a lot of things. Not you and I, but the church and people outside the church. There are a lot of things that we disagree on. But is it possible to find some common ground with the people in our culture? And how do we do that?
Great question. I believe it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
I believe when I love people for no matter who they are, no matter what lifestyle they're in, that's a common ground.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't engage in your culture, you disengage from the people you're supposed to reach from. That's why I'm in a bowling league. That's why I do a golf league. It's not because I'm a great golfer or a great bowler. I do these things because I can engage in a culture. I have an opportunity. Yeah. Common ground golf, common ground bowling, common ground whatever. The weather. I mean, we can work. We're from the same hometown. There's lots of things to talk about.
Have you noticed that the longer we serve the Lord, to use that cliche, the longer we know the Lord, the more we seem to pull away from our culture, and we kind of form our own cloister, and we don't want to have anything to do with people who are in the culture. And man, that's a dangerous place to be. That's not living the Bible at all. That's not living the Great Commission. But that's exactly the way the church does things.
Jesus didn't hang out with the religious people.
That's right.
That's why he was hated.
Yeah, you've heard the comparison of the churches that have become country clubs where it's all about the members.
Yeah.
And we've all fallen into that trap at times. But, Christian, atheist, Muslim, agnostic, can we not be friends?
I totally
do we have to? I mean, I have friends that are strong Christians that are ministers, and I don't agree with everything they say.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything in their life.
No.
Right.
But I'm still friends with them. I'm friends with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what? Dave says we don't disagree with one another, but you know what? Your makeup of your family is hard for me to probably understand because I don't have those obstacles, and I don't have those certain scenarios, like you said, to talk with my son about. And so, my viewpoint is probably different on things. So I'm not as passionate as you would be in some of these areas. I don't look at things because I'm not in that all the time. It's kind of like us pastors that say, well, we eat, breathe, sleep, all this. So we can't expect our people to have the same kind of passion for ministry as we do. But the reality is, we still have common ground, right?
Yes, here's the thing. We're all human beings on a rotating planet.
Yep.
We have that in common.
Yep. Well,
now, if you're not a human being, then that's different.
And we have a strong common denominator, Jesus Christ. It's awesome.
Yeah.
He's
life-changing. He changed my life.
Yeah.
1 Corinthians 9:22 says, to the weak, I became weak to win the weak. I have become all things to all people so that by all possible means, I might save some. That's hard to do if all you're doing is judging and, telling everybody what you don't like and what you don't believe in. And, I'm passionate about things and I'm very opinionated. And I'll admit sometimes that passion and those opinions get in the way. And I need the Lord to help me in those areas.
Yeah.
Well, I think the important thing is we don't lower our values. And perhaps there are some people who are listening who might think that that's what we're suggesting. We don't lower our values, but we focus on the value of each person beyond personal agendas.
That's good. And here's the thing. What if the church was known more for what we believe and less for what we're against?
Yeah. What do we
I agree.
Yeah. I'm for a lot more things than I'm against.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just take a moment here and say something. When you watch those ads on TV that promote the new medicines that are coming out, I tell you this, I don't want to take the medicine because what they say the possible side effects outweigh what they say it can do for you. So if you take that logic and put it into what you just said, I want to be around those I want to hear what I'm for, not what I'm always against.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm a hypochondriac. I have every one of those side effects as they read them off.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, there's no way we can cover this whole topic. I want to close with this question. What do you think the cure to hatred in our culture is?
I think the opposite of hatred, love.
Yeah.
All we need is love.
That's right. That's right.
I think that's a song. Yeah.
It is.
Honestly, I think that's a simple answer, but I think it's the right answer.
Yeah.
Well, and we've said this before on a previous episode, but we can choose to engage the culture with truth and with grace and with mercy. But in doing so, we don't have to be influenced by the culture. We're supposed to be the influencers.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. And if I'm afraid that if I'm around the culture and I'm afraid it's going to influence me, then I need to work on my strength as a believer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've heard somebody say this one time that, people, Jesus ate with sinners. Jesus did this with sinners. Here's the thing. We're not Jesus.
No.
We're trying to be the wrong character in that story.
That's true.
That's good,
Yeah.
Andy.
That's really good. It is. Well, I hope somebody's gotten something out of it. I know I have. And at the end of this discussion, I realize one thing. The Lord needs to help me to just shut up at times and just listen, or forget
Thank you,
the
Lord.
nonsense, forget the nonsense that I hear, and not focus on that, and just be who Christ wants me to be.
Well, and I've learned something tonight that I honestly did not know. Dave told us earlier that he has friends, and I'm amazed at that. I really am.
Yeah.
You're not one of them, Dave. That's for sure.
When you pay people enough, they'll do anything.
Thank you, Andy. Check is in.
With Dave, Andy, and Dave, we have the Dad Podcast.
That's
There
right.
You go.
That's right. Andy, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And I sure appreciate you just being real with us and, just saying what's on your heart. I appreciate that about you so much.
I applaud you guys for willing to have this conversation. And we just scratched the surface, but hopefully it provides an open door for people to start having good, honest conversation. So thank you guys. Good job.
I know that you have challenged me tonight, and I appreciate the words that you've spoken.
Yeah, I do. And I think let's be an encouragement to our listeners in this. These conversations can be awkward and might be difficult for us to even put the words out there. But if we don't have these conversations, we're just hurting ourselves.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And we have to quit ignoring it because we don't understand it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, thanks again for joining us and doing life with us for this short time. And as always, if you enjoyed this podcast, and I guess even if you didn't, we would ask you to subscribe, share this podcast with your friends.
Yeah, and also don't forget to comment wherever you listen to this podcast. I think most platforms give you an opportunity to comment. We'd like to hear your comments. Tell us what you think of this week's episode, and help us increase our podcasting viewership this coming week. And until next time, remember that 2 Daves are always better than one.